Well, guys, good afternoon. Today we took Monday off of work, so I decided to start on this one. I have a 2013 f-250, but it's got a 6.2 liter gas engine in it. On this one, the scanner is showing a random misfire. Is showing misfire 1, 2, 3, 4, and 8. It's got brand new coil packs. It's got brand new spark plugs, all 16 of them. And well, it's still got that nasty stumble at idle. Once you start going and you rev up that engine, it kind of straightens out, smooths out. But once you come back to a stop, an idle, it'll start shaking like crazy, guys. So on this one, I've ran into some of these before, and well, I think I know what the issue is. It's going to be a broken valve spring. On this one, since it's showing misfire on 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 4, I'm going to start on that side and take the valve cover off and inspect it for broken springs. I think we're going to find the culprit somewhere in there. I'm going to go ahead and remove both valve covers to be on the safe side, but I think it's going to be on the passenger side. All right, let me go ahead. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that valve cover. I'm going to remove. It's got like 10, I think it's 10 8mm little bolts holding that valve cover in place. And then of course we got these spark plug wires. Since this one has 16 spark plugs, it's got 8 under the coils, and then it's got 8 next to the exhaust manifold, and you have a wire going from your coil pack to that spark plug. So remove these, get them out of the way, get all those little 8mm bolts loosened, and try and get that valve cover, kind of wiggle it out. I'm not. All right, guys, now that we got all the little bolts are loose, spark plug wires, I removed them from the spark plugs that are next to the exhaust manifold, and I'm removing the boots off of the coils so that the wires will come out with a valve cover. I got to undo a couple of little clips holding these wire looms on the valve cover itself. I'm going to pull these off, and then I'm going to go ahead and remove that valve cover. So can't record that, but let me go ahead and get that out, and then we'll come back to this one. Hold on 1 second. You see that offset on that spring? You see that? There's a broken spring, guys. Because of that broken spring, this engine is shaking like crazy. It's giving you a misfire on all bank 2, and it even went to bank 1 cylinder 8. So I'm going to go ahead and clear some of this up so I can get you a better view as to how I remove this and how I replace that spring. First thing we got to do is, of course, remove the spark plug, rotate the engine, make sure that piston is all the way up top dead center. We don't want that valve to fall into that cylinder, because then it'll become into major work. We have to remove that head, a whole bunch of other stuff, just because of a broken spring. So we have to take precautions, lift the piston up, fill it up with air, or the way I do it is I don't have a compressor here, so before the piston hits top dead center, I'm going to go ahead and feed like its string into that cylinder, and then I'll go ahead and raise that piston up. That string is going to kind of compress with that valve and piston and hold the valve up while I go ahead and remove that spring, that valve stem seal, and replace that spring and put it back together. So for now, let me go ahead and clear up some of this junk. Well, guys, what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and remove these 10mm bolts to remove this rocker arm little pedestal right there. I'm going to pull off all the intake rockers. I'm going to be very careful because it's got lifters inside this little rocker. So I'm going to go ahead and pull all those 10mm bolts, pull this off, set it off to a side so I can go ahead and get ready to remove the valve spring. I know you can't see very well because of all this clutter, but I'm going to remove this valve spring, but of course on the 3rd cylinder. I'll show you guys that in a bit. Let me go ahead and get those 10mm bolts off so I can pull those rockers right out of there. Well, since this truck doesn't have an inner fender, I'm going to go ahead and go through the bottom. You'll see my hands just pop out, and I'm going to remove these 10mm bolts on the intake side of the rocker assembly. Well guys, I know you can't see me get to the last of them, but I just went ahead and loosened these up. I'm going to go ahead and remove all these little bolts and pull that rocker assembly straight out. Well guys, now that we have all the rocker assembly all loose, all the bolts are all basically undone, let me go ahead and get that rocker assembly out of there. Sorry about that guys. One of the bolts had like a thread left, or 1.5 turns, something like that, still left, so these you just bring them straight out, and as you can see, it's got lifters on there, so be careful not to lose these. Let me go ahead and get this out of the way. So let me try and get some of this clutter out of the way and see if I can give you a nice view of that broken spring. There you go guys. As you can see, it's slanted off to the side. It's broken. You got that top ring on the little faceplate, that 1, 2, between the 3 and the 4, and you can see that spring is lopsided. So that's broken. It's supposed to look somewhat like this, or somewhat like that. But there you go guys. We're gonna have to remove that one and replace it. But I do have to turn the engine, make sure that piston is up so that the valve doesn't actually drop into my cylinder and cause a lot more work. So let me go ahead and rotate that engine and set up that piston on the top dead center. I'm going to get some of this twine, and I'm going to basically stuff it into that cylinder so that I can keep that valve from actually dropping into the piston and having to remove that valve, that head, sorry. Here we go. I mean, it would have been, might have been a little bit easier if I would have gone through the top, but all you want to do is stuff a little bit of that rope in there. That one, when you rotate that engine and bring that piston up, it'll actually compress all that string inside the cylinder, and it'll keep the valve from dropping. I think I got like maybe 2 feet of it in, so that should be enough. Let me go ahead and rotate that engine and compress that string in that cylinder. Well guys, I'm going to go ahead and remove that valve spring. I'm going to use a valve spring compressor, the little small, I'll show you in a bit. Let me go ahead and get that sucker off, and then I'll show you guys. Well guys, that's the valve spring that we removed. As you can see, it is very much broken. You can see the break right there. Let's go ahead and get the sucker off. Reinstall that valve stem seal. I mean, we're already there, might as well. And get that new spring in there. Well guys, what we're going to do here is, of course, take this one off. Undo this little ring nut right here. Release all the pressure. And I know other people use one that actually mounts onto the head and stuff like that. I like these, especially when I'm able to use them. On some of the vehicles, you can't use this one. It's the area or the space is very, very limited. But on this one, you can. So you take this little shim riser off of the broken spring. Check this out, guys. I'll show you the broken spring in a bit. Green marks go to the top. Insert the flat little, lock it in place. Make sure it grabs. Let me see if I can squeeze a little bit more in there. Rotate the spring. Grab it from and just basically just tighten this up. Close up the spring. There. Now you're ready to insert this valve spring onto the valve. It'll give you enough space for you to get those little, let me show you. Let me grab them real quick. These two little suckers are the ones that hold that spring onto the valve. These are the valve spring that will hold down the holders. So once you get this valve in there, the valve stem is going to protrude past this. On the valve stem, you have two little recess cuts that accommodate those two cuts on the inside of this little keeper. Slip them in, they lock in place, and release the pressure off of the spring. As the spring goes up, these two get squeezed onto the valve, and that little recess cut on the valve stem won't let them go. I mean, that's what holds the spring onto the valve. Let me go ahead and get ready to install this one back on. I got it as far as I could go. I might have to go down another ring on that little coil to make it go in. We'll find out in a bit. I got it there. So now these are a little tricky. You don't want them to slip off of your fingers and fall into the head. Then you got to fish them out and hope they don't go further into the head. So let me get some light in there. Got them in, so now all I do is hold the valve up, the spring up, to keep tension on those little keepers, and undo this nut, loosen it up so that the spring can put all its force on the keepers, and the sorry about the visual, guys. I couldn't I mean, it's real hard to get this sucker in there. If it would have been the first one, it would have been a lot nicer, but it was the third one, so it's in a very tight spot. So now spring is on. All we got to do is put this thing back together and start it up, and I'll show you guys what a big difference it's going to be now that the spring is not broken on there. That compressor is back in that cylinder, and that engine should run very, very smoothly. We should be able to clear the codes, and we should have no more misfires. So let me show you guys the spring. Now here's the spring that broke. Let me see if I can undo this thing. There you go. I mean, I've seen this happen to these particular engines quite a few times. I've done very few, but I've heard a whole bunch of people complain about these springs breaking. Normally it's on cylinder 3 or cylinder 7. I mean, rarely does it happen to one of the first cylinders. So, but we found the issue. On this particular one, we had 3. We had cylinder 3, cylinder 7, and I replaced cylinder 8 just to be on the safe side. So I showed you removing and replacing one. The others I already did. Let me go ahead and put this thing back together and hope for the best. Well guys, I'm going to get that rocker tube in place. I'm giving you a different view. I'm going to go ahead and go through the top and install it or insert it, and hopefully you guys get to see how I put it on. Just make sure you rotate the rockers. Lifter on the valve. Lifter goes on the valve side. Well guys, hopefully you guys could see how we got this back in place. Now I'm going to get all the bolts close or hand tight, and then I'm going to start tightening them up, and I'm going to stagger I'm going to take it down slowly. You'll see in a bit. Well guys, that's those are the rockers. They're already installed. I'm going to check them one more time, make sure they're all tight, and well, I'm going to go ahead and install that valve cover, get that bolted on, get those spark plug wires on the coils connected, and so on and so forth. So I'm not going to record me putting the valve cover on. It's in a real tight spot. I'm not going to be able to give you a clear picture of it, so let me just put that valve cover back on, and well, we'll get to starting this one in a bit. Bear with me a minute. Well guys, I got the valve cover back in place, got it tightened up, got those wires connected to the 4 plugs in the bottom. These suckers, they got spark plugs right under those coil packs, 4 on top, and then it's got 4 wires leading to where the exhaust is, and it's got 4 other plugs down here. I mean, that was pretty cool. There are the wires. Well, I mean, this one pretty much is all buttoned up, so let's go ahead and start it up. I didn't show you guys what it was doing before, but it was shaking like crazy. But let's see what it does. This thing sounds a lot better, guys. Before it was shaking like crazy, it was really, really bad. You could almost say that it wanted to die at stop signs. I mean, it was ridiculous. But a broken valve spring, that was causing all our little issues. I'm gonna go ahead and call this one done. I mean, decent little work truck. And now I'm pretty sure the guy's going to be happy that his vehicle is running the way it's supposed to. Let me go ahead and drive it over to this place and get him back to peace. I think I'm going to pick up another vehicle. I think he said he had an 06 f-250, but that one got a 6.0 diesel. We're going to go ahead and start looking at that one and see what that one has, what issues it's got, so we can go ahead and start it cleaning. Well guys, we're going to call this one done. 2013 Super Duty with a 6.2 liter gas engine, broken valve spring replaced. So, well guys, thanks a lot for watching, guys. Like and comment.